Hello, everyone. My name is Christian Lord, and today I have the honor to be joined with Bitten Jonsson. She is an addiction specialist with a nurse training and a medical background. Welcome, Bitten, to this interview.
Thank you, Christian. I enjoy being here with you.
Wonderful. So today we would like to start simply by if you could please explain us what is addiction.
Well, it's a scary word for many people, and they, hope that they weren't hit with or have developed an addiction. Because it has, the rumor in our society that that's being bad, no moral character, you're a bad person, you have lost control, and so forth. But actually, there is tons of science today proving to us that certain substances and processes causes the addiction. It's not your fault. I cannot stress that enough. If you think that you might have an addiction, and after me explaining more what it is, and you feel, oh no, that's me, please don't feel so bad because you didn't cause it. And it is being hijacked. Your brain is being hijacked, and parts of your body too. And, it's not that you decided when you were young, oh, I think I'm going to be an addict, and you started developing it that way. Nobody did that. Everybody, like we're going to talk about sugar addiction today too, everybody started eating sweets and candies and sugar, not knowing that maybe I am one of the sensitive people that can be addicted. The same with alcohol and other psychoactive substances. Okay, so I like to point out that, not everybody will become addicted. That's the same, if you drink alcohol or if you eat a lot of sugar, you're not going to be addicted. But some of us, I am a recovering alcoholic and a sugar addict. So some of us have a sensitive brain, and it's genetic. Part of it is genetic, definitely. But it also has to be with you being in a certain environment. If you never drink alcohol, you can't become an alcoholic, of course. I mean, that's the thing. And it has to do with many factors. It is a multifactorial illness. And it is, today we know that the definition is that it is a brain illness, and you get physical, psychological, social, and spiritual consequences because it robs you of your life. It takes over your life, and you are not in control anymore. And that is the devastating part. But the thing is that you go into that not seeing this happening. And I used to say that once we have an addiction, our picture of reality is taken apart, and the pieces in that puzzle are many times upside down. We can't see why is this happening and how is this connected to this. And that's why I talk a lot about my job is to help you connect the dots and to dare see if you're addicted, because I tell you, there is an enormous amount of hope to recover from it and be free again.
Yeah.
So that's what you want to be. You want to be free. You want to be in charge of your life, every aspect of your life. You don't want a drug like sugar or alcohol or pills or whatever be running your life, because that is leading only to one thing, and that is, first of all, spiritual death, misery, depression, anxiety, and ultimately you die from the consequences of this illness. So I advise you, if addiction is a scary word, be friends with it if you think you have it. It's not bad to be an addict. The sad part is if you're addicted and you hide, lie, and sneak and don't dare to look for help, because that's going to totally destroy you.
Hmm. Beautiful.
Does it make sense?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Well, at least I see already hope. So,
Yeah, there is a lot of hope. And, there is, I would, if I would explain exactly what is going on in your brain, in your reward system, and in your reptilian brain, we would be here for many hours, you and I. So, if people that want to know more, I could say that the illness resides in your reward system and it affects your reptilian brain. That's why so many other beautiful parts of your brain will be malfunctioning and you feel miserable.
okay, okay, the reptilian brain, huh?
Oh,
So
yeah, yeah.
a
Yeah,
kind of a fight or flight response, a survival.
yeah. And sex and food, instincts. And here then we see that, sugar, which is a psychoactive drug, affects the brain and the body in a way that the reptilian brain thinks it's going to starve because that's about survival, right? It's a good brain to have for survival, but it's not very intelligent. So it doesn't make an intelligent decisions. I used to say, trying to domesticate your reptilian brain, that's like trying to get a crocodile to go heel. I can do that with a dog, but not with a crocodile. I promise you. You see the difference? So then that part of the brain, the instinct to eat, runs amok. So it starts telling you, if you don't eat this, you die. Not exactly in those words in here, but the feeling you get is that you have to have this food and you lose control again and again. You know it's bad to eat, the junk food, but you keep doing it
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you feel miserable. You feel like a failure, a loser, but you're not.
yeah.
It's the drug. Now the drug is running you, and it's running your reward center and it's running your reptilian brain. So you're a victim of these powers, and they are incredible strong. I'm telling you, incredible strong.
Okay. And can sugar addiction then lead to other types of addictions?
It does. It does. I meet those clients all the time. So most people that have an alcohol addiction or a drug addiction started with sugar. Gambling, screen addiction starts with sugar because sugar will rewire or hamper and make your brain malfunction so that the pathway for addiction becomes wider and wider. Maybe when you're 2, 3, 4 years old, it's like a little trail in the woods, but the more you eat the psychoactive foods, the wider it's going to be. It's going to be more and more intense. So one day, the sugar doesn't work really well, or you just think you're going to drink because it's in the society. And then, now we go from a trail to a wider road, and then a wider road. And, it's easier to pick up more and more things like pills or drugs or what have you because that's so prevalent in our society today, right? And gambling and screens and all kinds of things, sex addiction, you have the whole porn industry. So you can go from sugar and pass all the others and develop more and more outlets, as we say. So alcohol addiction is not different from sugar addiction. It's just a new outlet. It's just making the road wider and wider. And I used to say, that, when the addiction, when many, many outlets is in place, it's like having from that little cow trail in the woods or ant trail in the woods. Now we have an 18-lane asphalt highway. You see what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think, when I meet people, when they contact me, which I get people do every week, they email me and ask me for help. They really don't see all the outlets they have. But most people that I work with, they have at least sugar, flour, carbs, and then alcohol. And many have, smoke cannabis and also that part. And some have needed to do surgery or something else, and then suddenly they are addicted to sleeping pills or painkillers before they know it.
Mm.
So that's the sad part we see. So it's very important that when I train my professionals, I train them in addiction interaction disorder, one illness, many outlets. I don't train only in sugar addiction, because that would be like doing one little piece in a big picture. So you have to understand addiction in a deep sense. You have to be very knowledgeable about all the outlets in order to really help people to recovery.
Okay. So the addiction is in fact an underlying process that can manifest in many ways. It could be sugar.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Well put. Well put.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see. And then, so you said there's not only sugar addiction, there could be alcohol and what else?
Cannabis,
Oh,
tranquilizers, sleeping pills, painkillers, screens, gambling, sex and relationship, you know.
how do you identify an addiction pattern then?
Well, being a nurse, I think it's very important to not treat guesswork. Without a diagnosis, our illness is homeless. That's very important to understand, because addiction can, for an untrained not a person that is not a specialist, it can look like obesity, like diabetes, like depression, like panic anxiety. It could look like many different things, but those are the consequences. So you have to understand addiction in the depth of something, that it is a loss of control for that patient. So you have to ask the right question. And therefore, I'm trained in diagnosing alcohol and drug addiction. And I can also diagnose gambling addiction, or any outlet probably. But so I use that diagnostic instrument based on the International Diagnosed Manuals, DSM-5, that is made from American Psychiatric Association. And of course, 5 is the fifth version. And I was trained in diagnosing addiction when it was the third version. So that's, as you hear, many years ago. And then the World Health Organization has another manual. They're pretty similar, say basically the same thing. That one is called ICD-10 now, and we are just going over to ICD-11, the 11th version. And you can find almost every illness in there. And the reason we have those diagnosed manuals is that, we could speak all over the world together to help people with the same symptoms. So it's sort of a catalog there. You can say, if you have this and that symptom, it's probably this illness. And that's a good reason. Another good reason is that then we can do research. You could talk to a university in another country and said, yeah, the diagnose, and they have letters and numbers and so forth. Everyone, could you send me some information about any people that have this diagnosis, not personal information, about the illness? And we could do research. So it's a sort of a common language too, and a way to try to be good at diagnosing. The word diagnose comes from Greece, and it means in dialogue. So let's say that you come to me and you say to me, I have all these strange symptoms, I have this and that and this and that, and you tell me that. And I start asking you more questions, and then we can start looking, could it be this diagnosis? And that is, of course, extremely important if I'm going to treat you. Otherwise, I'm going to treat something I don't know what it is. So that's why we have these systems. So they, to have a diagnosis, it could be really good, because usually with it, we do have research and we do have knowledge. What do we do about this? Where do we start working with this? So I have created this diagnostic tool instrument called Sugar, of course, to diagnose sugar addiction. And it's based on the same questions, symptoms, criteria as alcoholism, drug addiction, and so forth. So that's how I know, because it's important to know everybody that have diabetes or is obese or have inflammation are not addicted. They might have something we call harmful use, which is not addiction. They don't have the loss of control that the addict has. So, with those people, you look for, why do they eat like this?
Yeah.
Are they depressed? Are they high? The most common is stress. They stress eat. Or is it in their culture? They don't know what to eat. They don't know what's good for the brain and the body. So they pick up an old culture and eat like that. And, there are all kinds of reasons to why they might have a poor food plan and a poor culture around food. Okay. And those people could learn to eat in moderation. But here's the very important thing that I really want to stress: addicts cannot eat in moderation. A heroinist cannot take a little bit of heroin on Saturdays. That's going to go downhill very fast. So that's why, for me, I only work with addicts. I don't work with harmful users at all. I decided to do only addicts. So for me, it's very important to know, are you addicted or not? Which the instrument is going to tell me. It's an interview, and I train and certify and license people in how to do this. So only certified and licensed people can do that diagnostic. And then, of course, it's going to tell me, how is your picture looking? When did it start? What kind of progression has it had through your life? And also the very important things like, what kind of consequences do you have? Because even if we do have some kind of a common treatment protocol, there are certain things we know everybody has to go through, right? But you are an individual. So, knowing your picture full out, I can give you the best treatment plan ever. It's not going to be like a generic, oh, Christian, you're just a sugar addict, do this, and I give you a piece of paper, this is what you're going to do. It's not going to be in that way at all. Opposite. You get a tailored treatment plan, which I think is very important, because people are different,
Yeah.
and you need to uh, treat them in a special way according to their personality. Some people like to do things very fast, and they talk. I'm that kind. I talk before I think. Other people want to think a lot before they do something. And think it's very important to be very respectful to your kind of personality and also your life. I mean, I cannot, I'm 72, and I live with my dog. So I don't have any kids to take care of. Can you imagine? I cannot have the same lifestyle as a 35-year-old woman that has 3 kids. Maybe she is a single mom. She's working full time. She needs to have another type of treatment plan, which is, taking into consideration her lifestyle. I think you see what I mean. So I think it is, if I don't do that diagnostic interview, which takes several hours, and I create an alliance with my client, if I don't do that, I'm not going to give that person the best treatment plan. And you know what treatment actually is? I'd like to point that out very firmly, because people think, the word, if you had the illness, it's not like I would take you here and said, oh, now I'm going to treat you. What I do is that I give you tools for you to try. You are the master of your life. When you are in an addiction, the drug is the master of your life. So in order to free you, what I want to do is I want to give you the tools and go home and try this and report back to me. Go home and try this and let me know. But I also give them, the harsh truth in certain ways. This is it with the food. You can never eat those kind of foods again. And I would do you a disservice if I wasn't honest with you. Addiction is deadly, and this is serious. So here are some of the things you have to do. But then there are things that we can develop together. I think that is a very important issue.
Yes, yes. And when you establish the diagnosis, uh,
Mm.
do you use some lab tests to
No, no,
substantiate? No?
there is no lab test that can determine if you're an addict. It's an interview. It's a
Okay.
very special interview, which I do with the client online. We both look at those questions, and it is 67 questions. So it takes an hour and a half. And those questions are the same questions that you ask an alcoholic, but here you talk about sugar instead of alcohol. Those are the questions that are in the diagnose manuals. Those are the criteria questions to show if you're addicted. And those questions is more about when you eat da 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 da, do you feel sick? Do you feel depressed? What happens when you use the drug? Instead of, like, many professionals ask people, well, how much do you eat and how often do you eat these things? And those are useless questions. The interesting thing is what happens with you, with your brain, with your body, with your behavior when you take the drug. That's what I want to look for. And that's how I can determine if you have lost control, if the drug is ruling you, or, if you're not an addict. So that is a very important interview. And of course, then the next step will be to take the blood sugar, fasting insulin, blood work, all kinds of lab tests. But those lab tests will tell me how severely ill are you in your consequences from the sugar addiction,
I see.
not the sugar addiction itself.
Okay, okay. You know, it's a very wise path because it allows the client, the addict, we have to say it, when they come to
Mhm.
you, it's because they are under the influence of an addiction, but it
Yeah.
allows them also to reflect and to assess themselves in their own life, so that's very good because there is a process of becoming aware of actually what's going on, not uh, not from your point of view, but also from the point of view of the person who is being treated. So that's wonderful.
And it's very respectful in that way. So that sometimes I say, well, I don't really treat people, I educate them.
Ah,
So education is my keyword. I teach you what addiction is, and I teach you what the options are. If you go this way and do this, this going to happen. If you do this going to happen. And also, some people have said to me, I'm not going to quit eating those foods, or I don't want to do that. And then I tell them, okay, I'm not going to work with you. I don't scratch on ice. So I'm very firm in that way because I know that this is the only way to go if you're addicted. You have to take away these foods, period. So if you don't want to do that, I'm not going to sit here and, trying to negotiate with your illness. I never do that. And go home and think about this. And if you're interested to, do the treatment, learn about the illness, come back to me when you're ready.
very good. Now, it's a delicate subject, but would you say that addiction, in fact, is a mental disorder?
No, it's not a mental disorder. It's a physical disorder. It's faulty wiring in the brain, and it has to do a lot with neurotransmitters and all kinds of things. But it does absolutely give physical and psychological consequences, and social and spiritual. So many people, this is what I met all the year. People think that they eat because they are uh, depressed or moody, or because they feel miserable. They think that that is the reason they eat, but you know what, that is putting the wagon in front of the horse,
Ah,
because these foods ruin your mental health, as well as give you diabetes and obesity, and microbiome is broken in your stomach, and I could count many consequences. So the illness comes first. So it is the drug that causes the depression and the anxiety and the weakness and the misery. But people think the opposite because they don't see how it started. And that's why we do the sugar, so we can see how it started. Well, it started when you were 3 years old and you were a little sugar rat and you didn't want to eat anything else than sugar, or it started in the womb if your mother ate tremendous amount of sugar when she was pregnant with you, or when you were a baby and you had formula. Read the ingredients in formula and you quickly see that that's probably not the best nourishment for a baby brain and body.
That's
That's harsh truth, but we have come a long way from natural foods. I have to say that. That's so sad. That's incredible sad. So much of the food we eat today is not really food. It's a chemical concoction.
it brings the realization, and it's shocking, is that nutrition is paramount in one's mental health as well as physical health.
Absolutely. And today, there is one of the psychiatrists that I work with. She was the first, what we call the food psychiatrist, Georgia Ede.
Yeah.
Her book is Change Your Diet, Change Your Mind, and she's one of the teachers in my faculty for the professionals I train, and they absolutely love it. And then you have Professor Tim Noakes in South Africa,
Yes.
working with the ketogenic diet or therapeutic carbohydrate restriction, as we call it, and to treat depression and bipolar and panic anxiety. And I tell you an interesting story. Many years ago, there was a psychiatrist in Sweden that called me, and he said to me, "You know what?" And they can sound so stern, like, you and I have the same client, and I have to ask you a few questions. And I thought, my God, what have I done? Have I done something? I got a little scared first. And then he said to me, she came to me several years ago and I diagnosed her with borderline. And borderline, you're not supposed to fix borderline. That's a chronic problem, right? So, and he said to me, and she has been with you now, and she did your training about 4 years ago. And today she came back for a visit and she doesn't have borderline anymore. So, what are you doing?
Okay.
So I started telling him, and he was very interested. And he said, "This is very interesting." And today you have the Basuki group, a group online where they work for ketogenic diet for mental disorders. You have Christopher Palmer, the psychiatrist from Harvard. His book, Brain Energy, is lovely. So, what I saw 20, 30 years ago when I started working with these people and take away the junk food from them, and they started becoming healthy and living again, now we have a lot of written stuff about that. So, but a lot of this research, like many research we see today, is not new. It's been around for a long, long time. I'm thinking about William Duffy's book that he wrote, I think, 1975. The book is called, wait a minute, let's see, Sugar Blues. Have you read it?
No.
That was one of the first books I read, Sugar Blues by William Duffy.
Okay.
And he doesn't have the language I have as a medical person, right? But he's talking about this. It's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah. It's
Just
very
the
interesting.
title, suggests the consequence of, stuffing your face with sugar.
Right, but it's very interesting. So,
Cool.
I think that so much of the mental problems we see today, stress, burnout, and all that, is caused by nutritional depletion in the brain and the body.
Hmm. Okay, tell me more about this. That's a very interesting.
Well, when I say sugar, I mean all sugars, any sugar, syrups, sugars of any kind. I talk about sweeteners. I talk about every flour you can imagine, whatever it comes from wheat or amaranth or something else. Flour, that's a carb. And then I talk about, high carb veggies like rice or potatoes, or you could think about it as anything you eat that the body needs to turn into sugar in order for the body to use it. I mean, it's not like the carrot go up to your brain and become useful in your brain as a carrot or a potato or a piece of candy or cake. So the body will melt it down to sugar and it goes out in your bloodstream. And that's what the danger is. So you could also talk about carbohydrates, the high carbohydrates. Uh, Actually, our bodies are not made to eat that, because the pancreas is not made to, squirt out insulin in the way it does. Tremendous amount of insulin if you do high carb load, and your body going to protest. Your brain and your body going to say, wait a minute, we can't, put more in our cells now. So we're going to say no to the insulin, because insulin is the door opener into the cell to let the glucose in. Okay. It's more complex, but there are more things going on, like fructose in the liver and all that. But I don't think we should get caught up in all the details. People could Google that and learn more about that. But it's very interesting and fascinating. So now you have an insulin resistance, and that creates diabetes, right? Obesity and all kinds of stuff. And not only that, when the cell is so stuffed and the receptor locks around the cell, you know, in your cell, there is about 1,000 of processes, normal processes going on every minute, and they create waste products. And where should that waste products go? Well, it should go back out in your body to be eliminated through your breathing, sweating, weeing, and number two, right? That's how the body gets rid of it. Mm-hmm. Normal process. But if you get swollen, insulin swollen and stuffed in all the cells, where do you think that the waste products are? They get stuck in the cell and you become intoxicated. So that's another thing that happens. And one of the later books too, I learned about insulin resistant maybe almost 20 years ago. But one of the very interesting books today is Why We Get Sick by Dr. Benjamin Bickman.
Yes.
Uh, he is teaching a lot about insulin resistance. So he's really worth listening to. And he's a very nice guy. I wrote him a question and he answered me right away. Thanks for that.
Mhm.
But so we know much more about the biological part. And in my world, what I've seen is that biochemistry comes before the psyche. Most people think that it is the opposite. No, a broken biochemistry creates a broken psyche, not the other way around. So if you have a mental problem, it means that your body is broken in the biochemistry in some way. We know, for instance, today that your intestinal flora is extremely important for your health, for your immune system, for building neurotransmitters. So if you eat these chemical concoctions that is today in the processed and ultra processed food, and flours that are molecules are broken down so the body can't read them, if you do that, you are going to get a very unhealthy microbiome, the bacteria flora, and that will make you be sick. If any virus or germ comes by, it catches on to you. And also, we know that the toxins, the byproducts in your intestine from a faulty flora, will cause depression. Because you know what? Everything is connected to everything. And your intestine, your germs, there are more germs in your intestines than there are cells in your body. So I used to joke and say, who do you think is host of whom?
Ah, yes. Yes, I've heard that
Well,
before. Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, your it's very important to have a healthy intestinal flora. Very healthy, very important, extremely important for your overall health. So, if you can't run a Ferrari on sugar water. It has to have a special fuel. And you look at most of the machine today, they can have diesel or gasoline, but you can't mix it. You can't put whatever you want in your lawnmower or in your car or whatever. It's going to break down. It's the same with our body.
Wow. So,
One problem is that our bodies are very resilient. They try to keep homeostasis for a long time until they say, okay, we give up, and they crash.
ah,
And that's when you become really sick.
okay. And who reacts this way? Is it the organs? Is it the whole body? Is it the brain? Who reacts? Who gives up?
Well, it depends on where your genetic sensitivity is. If
Okay.
you have genetic sensitivity for inflammation, you could get, rheumatoid arthritis, or, you could get not, some of those illnesses, inflammatory illnesses, or you could get, cancer, or you could get diabetes, or obesity, or depression. It depends on where the sensitivity is, which system is most sensitive, that will collapse first.
Okay, that's a
So
very
most
good
people,
point.
yeah, most people today get, of course, from living in this way, overweight. That's the biggest complaint. They think that's the most problem. But under that is usually pre-diabetes or diabetes, or, inflammations, or any kind of those problems. They have pains in muscles and joints that they really don't know where it comes from, and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I was listening to Dr. Tim Noakes, and he was saying that in the developed countries right now, over 80% of the population is either pre-diabetes or diabetes. It's
Yeah.
enormous. 80 over
Yeah,
80%.
yeah, I know. I see that all the time. I absolutely love that man.
Yes,
He's
and
a maverick. I call him the maverick.
yes, and I was interviewing recently Dr. Gary Fetke in
Oh
Tasmania.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
he was
Great man.
saying the same. He was saying, right now, 80 to 85% of the population is either pre-diabetes or diabetes. So it's an alarming fact.
Yeah, and I think Dr. Robert Lustig, he also teaches sometimes in my training, and he said that I think he said that I think it was him. I listened to many too.
Yeah.
That only 12 percentages of the American people have a healthy metabolism.
Okay.
Only
Well,
12%.
he
12.
is optimistic because Dr. Fetke was saying 6.8%.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well,
Well, I
we
guess it
know it's
depends
high.
on
We,
who
we
has
know,
it.
yeah, we know it's very, very high.
But
And, being a nurse, I'm thinking, how is the healthcare system going to deal with this? Because it's going to collapse. What are we going to do with all these people that come with all these consequences? I mean, it's just, I think it is very scary, very scary. And I mean, Robert Lustig, he talks a lot about, overweight children, very sick children,
that's
children with fatty liver. I mean, that is so scary. And also, he talks about, young people drinking a lot of sodas become very aggressive. I think that's something I see around here too. The energy drinks, they eat candy bars and energy drinks. There is absolutely nil nourishment in that. It's only very dangerous fuel for the brain and the body.
now we come to the practical aspect of all this. So, what would be the changes that one needs to do in order to go into recovery? I know
Yeah.
it's a big subject, but I'll let you
It's a
elaborate.
big, yeah, it's a big subject. And that's what I've been working with for many, many years, treatment, helping people to start the recovery process. First of all, I have to say it is very simple, but it's not easy.
Ah,
You don't have to be a rocket scientist. There is no weird things you're going to do at all. but it's going to take time. You have to be patient, and you have to have friends that have the same problem walking alongside you on the recovery road. You're going to need a lot of support. First of all, I think it's very important that you have to have knowledge. You have to know that you are addicted, and how your picture look. How sick are you? That's a very good start. The other thing is to understand that you have to cut out all those foods that we call drug foods and trigger foods. There is no way around it. So, a ketogenic food plan is the best way to start, because becoming sugar addicts means you're sugar sensitive. You can't keep carbs and sugar in your food plan. I don't recommend fruit even, maybe berries, but not fruit. So the shopping list that I recommend to people is very simple. It is meat, any kind. It is fish, any kind. It's egg. Those are the animal protein is extremely important for our brain. Our brain need in the neurons, it has a fatty acid profile, and the EPA, DHA, which is a fatty acid that we have in omega-3, animal fat, is extremely important for your brain. It should be most of that in there. And your brain is 60 to 70, maybe 80% of fat. I mean, you can't ignore that. So those are the proteins that I recommend that people go and buy. And then the fats, they are very important. No vegetable oil or nut oils or anything in that kind. The only oils I recommend is olive oil, butter, ghee, coconut fat, lard, MCT oil. Those are the oils that are the best for our body, our vessels, and our brain. So that's what I recommend that people eat. And then, vegetables above ground. And at the Nutrition Network, they have a dietitian that is lovely. If you have time, interview her. Her name is Tamsin Murphy. She's taught me a lot about oxalates.
Yeah.
It could be a problem for many people, and she's very skilled at anti-nutrients that we have. I mean, veggies doesn't want to be eaten. They're going to try to defend themselves. So in those, you have anti-nutrients. And it's, of course, very, individual how much we can take of all these things too. But she is beautiful at teaching these things. I've interviewed her. So, but anyway, let's say veggies above ground, which are low carb, that you can eat. But you can't, go and eat potatoes and rice and bread and pasta. Those things has to go, because those are high carb. So, of course, there is a very simple shopping list, 3 ingredients, right? I mentioned those now, and then for a sugar addict, I recommend that you go cold turkey, because messing around with having a little bit of less left in your food plan and this is just going to cause craving. And craving is a very painful physical feeling. One client said to me, it feels like I have toothache in my hair. Then you know how bad it is. So it's very unpleasant, because you get obsessed with having to have that food you think about. So craving is really bad. So you have to eat in a way that you minimize craving, and then you have to, live in a way that you stabilize your body, your blood sugar, and everything, which is, in our case, eating 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and nothing in between. Nothing in between, because you don't want to, trigger the eating monster,
Yes.
and that you dare eat good protein, good fats, and if you want, veggies to that. And drinking is water, that's the best fluid ever to drink. And also, so the first part is to going on the ketogenic food plan. I'm talking about the biochemical repair now, how you restore mental horsepower. It was a psychiatrist in US saying that, Dr. Daniel Amen. I love to quote him on that. We have to restore the mental horsepower before we send people into therapy or everything else, because people are depleted, they're drained, their mitochondria have no fuel. They just go and hum, 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 but nothing happens. So the food first, you go on that food plan. And remember one thing, it's only for today. Sometimes it's only 1 hour at a time, and you need support. You need to call somebody and said that my illness, I call it the red dog. The healthy part of me is the blue dog. It's constant battle in there. And the red dog thinks we should do this. And I said, no, 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 no. And the red dog, the whatever, blue dog is the true self, the healthy part. And the red dog is the little nasty bummer that, want to lead you off in the wrong way. So, you have to learn how to deal and domesticate the red dog. And somebody else will help you with that. Because one of the things we do in the recovery program, we ask each other stuff like, have you done this? Yeah, I have. How did you do it? Tell me what you did. Tell me what you did. I don't tell people, do this. Listen to people that have gone ahead of you. You have tons of experience out there in the support groups, tons of experience. People live normal, they travel all over the world, they do all kinds of things, and don't eat this, chemical junk food. They eat the things that I just mentioned. So one day at a time. Then you need to learn correct breathing. You know that addicts, they are very high intense people. They are on or off. They overdo, overspend, overeat, overdrive, over, and then crash. They do nothing and then they start again. So I teach conscious breathing, nose breathing, using a relaxator, which is a breathing device with resistance. It's beautiful. You can use it, when you watch TV or when you sit on the computer or in the car or whatever. It
Okay.
helps massaging your diaphragm. Is absolutely marvelous because most people that are stressed and poorly nutrition, they breathe up here.
Yeah.
And that will deplete you of oxygen and carbon dioxide. And carbon dioxide is one of the biggest chemicals in your body that makes your blood vessel relax, so you become relaxed. There's another one too, oxytocin. So it's a lot to learn. So we teach them proper breathing and how to do that. So every time you feel the red monsters say, why don't we go and have an ice cream? Oh, wait a minute. I'm going to use this for 10 minutes first.
It's
No, but
interesting.
anyway,
Yeah, it's interesting what you're saying about the breathing because I noticed that when I breathe in and I hold my breath, I feel my body and my heart slowing down slightly.
yeah. And you can also do it the other way. You breathe in, but you have to exhale twice as long as you breathe in, and then take a small break. So I start with teaching them breathe in through your nose on 3, release on 6, rest on 3, counting, and then in on 3, blow out on 6. You should always exhale twice as long as you inhale. That causes the relaxation, and the
Beautiful.
body have time to pick up the oxygen molecules
Hmm.
and the carbon dioxide. So now you relax. Okay.
Okay.
Uh, so breathing is number 2. Number 3 is sleep. We work on sleep improvement. There are many, many tools you can use. First, of course, you interview people. How do you sleep? When do you go to bed? What do you do before? Um, uh, is it dark in your bedroom? Are you sleeping with your phone like this on your nose? Or, I mean, we teach them to sleep because sleep is the body's way of cleaning everything, cleaning the lymphatic system in your brain that cleans the brain at night, and everything is synchronizing and restoring and coming back for the morning. And then we also teach them that nature is extremely important. I love the research they had in Japan about the forest bathing. I don't know if you have read that, but if you haven't, it's very fascinating. And I am a true believer that nature is the biggest healer if we use it in the right way. So I used to joke and say, go and hug a tree. But, it could be, but the morning light, if you can go out in the morning light, the morning sun, it has very healing rays, or the evening sun. But don't be afraid of the sun, because all the life on in earth and everywhere in space, comes from the sun. So that's life.
Yeah.
So be in nature. So people used to look at me terrified, they were very overweight and they were totally drained and said, do I have to exercise? And I said, no, actually, I forbid you to do that. And they look at what? Everybody else tell them eat less, exercise more, right? And I said, no, don't do that. But you know what? Why don't you step out on your porch or go out for 2, 3 minutes in the morning light and then go back in? That was one session. So you start with baby steps, baby steps, baby steps.
Aha.
And then you use the power of the group. And, and I love the 12-step program because I was born, a recovering alcoholic into the 12-step program. And that is a cognitive behavioral therapy. It's all about changing. It's not a religious program like a lot of people think. Then they don't know what it is. But there are many great slogans there, like 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time, live and let live. Many, many good slogans that I use as little mantras through my day.
Beautiful.
So those are the biochemical repair is this. And then there is one more thing. It is supplements. To be using certain supplements could be as the best crutch on earth, like magnesium, sea salt, maybe some B vitamin, because remember one thing, through all these years, when you were using all that chemical concoction, it totally drained your body of nutrients. So, I don't believe in people, eating 30, 40 supplements a day, but maybe 3, 4 supplements could be a very good crutch. And the ones tailored for your problem, like hydrochloric acid, if your stomach is just not functioning proper anymore. There are many very good supplements that we use in order to help restore more energy, in order to start doing all the other big changes you have to do, because this is the rest of your life. It's a chronic illness. So the treatment program is every day for the rest of your life, but only 1 day at a time. And to do it with other people that have the same illness, that makes you bond with them for life. And you always support each other, always support each other. And I also love to teach my clients about relapse prevention, because it's a very recurrent illness. Because think about it, your drug, our food drug, is everywhere. And we are, as sensitive people, more sensitive to smell. Can you imagine a bakery? You know,
Oh, yeah.
smell, sight. Think about commercial on TV, all the junk food that's there, ice cream trucks, bling, 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 pling, plong, driving around. We're always, affected by cue-induced craving, cues that want to grab us and get us back into this. The world is made in that way. So we have to learn a lot of things to withstand that. And many times, one of my favorite tools has been calling another person as a wingman in the program and use good humor. We are laughing at the red dog. That ought to take the power out of it, in many ways. I tell her, can you imagine my stupid red dog thinks that we should do this and that? Oh, yeah, of course the red dog wants you to do that. Then you have a chance to eat, right? Yeah, I know. Stupid. And then we laugh about it, and that takes the craving away and the power from it away. If you try to do this home alone, in the darkness, you're not going to succeed. The red dog going to win every battle every day. So you need to step out there and come join us. We are a big group of people doing this today, and we support each other, and we laugh, and we are happy, and we are free. We are free. That's the important thing. I decide what to eat. My red dog doesn't anymore.
Wonderful. That's a very comprehensive approach. And what I like is that I see that it becomes one's lifestyle rather than just a diet or something you do temporarily. No, it becomes your new lifestyle for the rest of your life because you nourish yourself properly and you develop healthy habits of living outside of the eating hours. So
Yeah, but that's what we say. If you're an addict and you take away the drug or drugs, if you have several outlets, and you adopt this new lifestyle, the reward is being happy, joyous, and free. That's not bad.
not bad at all. Well, Bitten, I thank you so much. This interview is jam-packed with extremely valuable information, and I'm
Good.
so happy that I had the privilege to interview you. And if people would like to communicate or contact you, where can they find you on the net?
Well, I'm on several platforms, but if you go to my website, Bitten's Addiction, Bitten and an S and addiction, one word.com, you find, me, you can find me there on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and also a contact form. So you can email me. And, I answer everyone that emails me and, tell me that you have a problem and also tell me where you are in the world, sort of. I don't need your address, but, I'm in Texas or whatever you are, uh, because of the time zone. So I can try to match you with one of the people that I've trained in this program, in this way of thinking, in this knowledge. They are highly skilled people that are out there willing to help you. So just email me, or on my website you have more information. You can read that, and hopefully my first English book, which is a translation of my Swedish book, will be out pretty soon anyway. I'm working on it.
Good, wonderful. Well, I thank you so much again, Bitten. And
I'm grateful that you wanted me to share these things because I know there's a lot of people suffering. I feel blessed to be with you and tell you about these things. That's my passion, to teach people about this.
well, it has become a passion for me also, and I'm so grateful. And I'm already looking forward to our next conversation.
Okay. Yes, you're welcome back. I look forward.